Is there a limit to our vision? How is everyone doing today? My name is Thomas, and welcome to my channel. I do educational videos on a number of different subjects. Got some books out there and articles and consultations, courses, and mostly on subjects that are common subjects, but a different take on them, maybe a more spiritual take on some of these different subjects, a more quantum take on them. And I have an inspiration or a mission to kind of resurrect a lot of the work from some of my heroes that spent their whole life working on something and never got any credit and never got any money, and basically are about to be lost to history, even though they were right about either the whole theory or at least a good portion of the theory that they came up with. And so I've stumbled across a lot of these people over the years, and I'm attempting to, keep their work relevant and keep other researchers aware of these things so that they can work on the theories, because like I said, some of the times their theory didn't go all the way. They didn't get it all the way to perfection or to finish it. Maybe they died early, or maybe they just never got through one conceptual hurdle or another. But their theory is definitely worth knowing about, especially if you're a researcher and you can maybe improve upon it. And so that's where I'm at. One of the main things I teach is this tree of life, and the tree of life is similar. It's, I don't believe that its potential has been tapped, mainly because most of the people who use the tree of life are evil. And so there, it's been tapped for its evil purposes, but it hasn't been tapped for its good purposes, which include the self-defense, defense of people who use it from those evil people who are trying to use it against us. These people are going to use this against us regardless of whether we know about it or not. So we might as well know about it and be able to recognize the attack when it comes. So that's part of it. The tree of life goes back to ancient Egypt, if not further. And it is basically a map of our consciousness. And all of these different components of it are aspects of our consciousness, or faculties of our consciousness. You can see that it has 10 different circles or spheres. Number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then we have a thing here called the abyss, which is an implied sphere, and a 0 above the tree. Total of 12 different categories, mapping out 12 major faculties of consciousness. Now, the beginner's version of this starts with the 10th sphere, and you have our survival instinct. This is our ability to keep ourselves alive, kill or be killed, the state of nature, fight or flight response, the condition of the body, the capabilities of the body, the defilements and the lusts of the body are also included here in the 10th sphere. The 9th sphere is really our domestic consciousness that we open up as we grow up in the home, the first few years of our lives, where we are in a state of mediumistic trance or heightened receptivity, where we're just soaking everything up like a sponge from our environment, but especially from our parents and caregivers. We're observing them and with fascination, and we learn to basically imitate what they do, and then we practice that imitation. We practice our imitations of them to the point that we learn how to do it. And so, we memorize. So that's where the ninth sphere is all about heightened receptivity, imitation, practice, and memorization. The eighth sphere is somewhat similar because it is kind of about, one thing I didn't say about the ninth sphere is that it is blind. So you copy and you imitate regardless of whether it's like good or bad. So if you see a pattern of abuse in your home, you're going to tend to also imitate that. So the eighth sphere is also blind as far as that goes. But the eighth sphere, whereas the ninth sphere is about the domestic sphere, like being in the home, the eighth sphere is about the public. So this is once we go out into public, go to school, go to church, and this is where we are hit with the consensus worldview, or the expert opinion, or the conventional wisdom, or where people say everybody knows that. This is kind of a deception. The eighth sphere is where the trickster is located. So the eighth sphere is not necessarily true. It is just posited. And the conventional wisdom is posited for you. This is what you're supposed to believe. This is how you're supposed to behave. This is the way that it is. We're not giving you any evidence or any proof or anything like that. We're just telling you this is what it is, and you can take it or leave it. If you take it, you have a clear path to get into the eighth sphere, which incidentally is where all the resources and riches are located and status are located. If you leave it, then you're out on your own. So that's pretty much it. So that ends up creating this rationalization. And so those are kind of the two major faculties there at the sixth sphere, is our rational faculty, our logic and reasoning, which also includes rationalization, providing excuses for yourself and excuses for others as well. And then also our belief systems. So what we believe in. And they tell us what we're supposed to believe. If we believe it, we have access. If we don't believe it, then we either need to pretend we believe it, or we're out. Okay, so the eighth sphere is where all the power and money is located, and they pretty much set up an ultimatum for us that you either buy into this, or you have to fend for yourself, and against great odds. So that creates a tension for us where we are forced to use rationalization to justify buying into this, even though it conflicts with our own experience. They're telling us that the sky is green, and we can see clearly that the sky is blue, but we have to pretend that the sky is green because that's what they say. And so, they get us clowning ourselves, by rationalizing, well, I see the sky is blue, but there must be something wrong with me because everybody else sees the sky is green. So the consensus that they construct is really a fake consensus. If somebody actually just stood up and said the sky is blue, then it would be a beacon for other people that are like, hey, you know what? The sky is blue, and I've been pretending that it's green because I was too afraid to stand out, because it seemed to me like everybody thought it was green, but it really is blue. I see it as blue, and now this other person is saying it too. There have been plenty of psychological experiments on that, when if there's just one person that calls BS on the whole program, then other people are empowered to say, yeah, that's true. I don't see it that way either. So sometimes it's really important for just one person to stand up for what they believe is truth, instead of just rationalizing themselves and fitting in here because everybody else does it. Okay, so that's maybe too long on the A-sphere, but the A-sphere is really very important. The A-sphere, the logical faculty and the belief systems, they have a place on the tree, but the problem is that the A-sphere has been swollen up so that it takes up pretty much the whole diagram. We need to put it back into its perspective, that it's on the lower aspect of the tree, and that it is it is an important but not as important aspect of our consciousness as some of these other spheres. But the people that created the A-sphere, they want you to think that the A-sphere is pretty much the be-all, end-all. Okay, now the seventh sphere is for people who actually don't buy into what's going on at the A-sphere, and they come over here and they attempt to provide alternatives to the A-sphere. Where the A-sphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is about the imaginary world. So the seventh sphere is for people who imagine something better. They see the problems here, and they imagine something better, and they incorporate other aspects of the seventh sphere, which include intuition and inspiration, creativity, a spark of creativity, and also the pleasure principle, being able to put things together in pleasing groupings. And they use these different faculties to come up with creative and inventive ideas and products that attempt to provide an alternative to the A-sphere. What they probably don't recognize there yet at the seventh sphere is that they have no megaphone. They can come up with these things all they want. Nobody is ever going to pay any attention to them, because the people that are in the A-sphere are invested in the A-sphere. And so if somebody comes up with an alternative, A, it makes them look stupid, and B, it makes them the alternative, if adopted, would make their lives much more inconvenient. This is what you get where you're dealing with history of science in general. Thomas Kuhn's book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. It takes generations for new ideas to actually get into the A-sphere, even though they're right, because the scientists who said that the Earth is at the center of the universe, or whatever. This is just an example, because I don't necessarily even believe this, but they say that the Earth's at the center of the universe, and so Copernicus or Galileo or whoever over here, or Bruno, comes over here and says, no, well, I've got all this other data that shows that it isn't at the center of the universe. Well, all the scientists who are over here are going to persecute these people, because it goes against what they say. It makes them look stupid, so if I accepted this, that would mean that the last 25 years of my career were a joke, because I was buying into this erroneous theory. And it would put my job in jeopardy, my tenured track professor job in jeopardy, if I accepted this. So I'm going to vote to either exile this person or have them burned at the stake, or in more modern times, just ignore them and let their work rot in the corner. Okay, now when we go up to the sixth sphere is where our free will faculty is located. Free will breaks down to our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. This is where we're located. If this were a map, it would say you are here. We are here, but we are paying attention in general down the tree into the 8th, 9th, and 10th spheres. And but the other aspect of free will is our ability to make decisions. Our first decision with free will, first free will decision is to turn our attention around, turn our backs on the 8th, 9th, and 10th sphere, and point our attention in the direction of the higher aspects. This requires standing in the face of fear and being able to like look into the void, into the nothingness, or into the unknown. And because these aspects, these higher aspects, are not really filled out the way that these are filled out. We grew up with this, but this, we're not familiar with it. So we end up applying our attention to things that we don't know anything about, which is a scary proposition. But if we first take it one step at a time and tune our attention onto the fifth sphere, which is our sense of justice. This is our sense of justice, otherwise known as karma. And, it is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. What comes around goes around. Boomerang. And you could think of it as just like a mirror being right here. Now, when we act, and then our karma feedbacks, acts in return, action, reaction. And so and our karma is calibrated based on violence, waste, and violation. So when we violate somebody, our karma comes back to us and we are violated. When we commit violence, then our karma comes back to us and we have violence committed against us. So if we can recognize that and recognize the connection there by paying attention, which is the quality of the sixth sphere, then we can gradually learn from our karma and begin to root out that violence, waste, and violation from our behavior. So that is a positive step that we can take by paying attention to the fifth sphere. We also want to pay attention to the fourth sphere. The fourth sphere is the counterpart to the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of that law. And that is in cosmologies or holy books, theories of everything, things that have taken civilizations, generations to build up. And, it tells you how everything works in the universe. Doesn't mean that it's all right, but it means that it's based on observations, investigations, experimentations, experience, and other, positive forms of going after the truth. Whereas the eighth sphere is just based on decree, commandment. This is what we're telling you. Here, there's, evidential, proof, and then there is also adjustment. If the paradigm, if the cosmology turns out to be not correct, then it needs to be recalibrated. So this is just a much deeper and a better way of determining the truth and determining the law than the eighth sphere. And then up here, we've got the abyss, our psychic powers. This is also magnetism, but our psychic powers are, based on omens. The omen is really like a magnetic charge. An omen is, or a synchronicity, or a coincidence, or a recurring pattern. Anything that kind of sets off a little alarm in our mind is like, wow, that's weird. Most of the time, we're kind of taught to disregard those things. Just put it in the back of your mind and don't think about it anymore. But if we can develop the kind of the habit of saying, hey, that's something that's important, that is our psychic receptivity, to be able to tune into that. And then our psychic heat, which is the other aspect of psychic powers, is our ability to actually act upon that. The act is prescribed by the recognition. So when we recognize that there's an omen, it also gives us a path of action. And if we take that action over our fear, then we are activating our psychic powers. Okay, 3, 2, and 1 above the tree, or not above the tree, at the top of the tree, are our divine faculties within. Omnipotence, all powerful. Omniscience, all knowing. Omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. Third sphere is about sound. We tap into this all powerfulness through synchronized sound. Second sphere is about omniscience or wisdom, the ability to solve problems. We tap into this through sight, through vision, through light, coherent light. And basically, it's a it's a vision of the omnipresent. Okay, it's a vision of our higher self. And so the first sphere, omnipresent, is all present, all at once, eternally. And this is about unity, because when we actually go to our deepest center, where our higher self is located, we recognize that our deepest center is the same as everybody else's deepest center. Everybody else has this we all have a unifying aspect at our deepest center. And then the zero is above the tree, which corresponds to like not in the universe, and it also corresponds to the void, the mystery, the nothingness. You know, it's a total ignorance of something, recognition of that ignorance. We can't perceive this. We can't get there. It is part of the creator, but it is not part of the universe. So it's outside the universe, and we can grasp that indirectly, and that actually in and of itself is a faculty of our consciousness, just the grasping of our inability to grasp that. Okay, now that is kind of the beginner's aspect of the tree. Now, if we want to go a little bit further, we would what we call fractalize the tree by taking each sphere, each one of the 12 aspects of consciousness, and breaking it down to another level by applying the whole tree to each one. So we break down each one of the 12 into its 12 component parts. So we end up with 144 what I call fractal faculties, or otherwise stages of life, consciousness, history, and spirituality. So those 144 just goes into more detail for each sphere, and I've compiled that list and would be happy to share that with you for free. If you click the link in the description, I'll just send that out to you. Now, each day in these videos that I've been doing this spring is features one of the 144 different fractal faculties each day. And that's toward the end of the video. The first 20 minutes or so of the video is just the beginner aspect on the tree, and then we go a little bit deeper. Now, I do this because, first of all, you know, I'm inspired by you know, some of the great jazz musicians of the past, especially the pianist Sun Ra. And you know, Sun Ra could play he could play the same song like 10 million different ways. You know, he could play a jazz standard like some Duke Ellington, you know, Take the A Train or something, and you could hear him play it a million different times, and every time it would be different. And so it's kind of what I like to do when I go through the summary, the beginner's aspect summary of the tree, you know, because each time you hear it, there's going to be another level or another layer to it that you didn't get the first time, or the second time, or the third time. So going through this, you'll hear me do 144 different versions of going through the tree. And hopefully each one of them will be able to enrich you a little bit. But then when we get to the end of the video, we'll be going through each one fractal at a time. So today we're looking at number 120. Is there a limit to our vision? And this 120 is located here at the second sphere. The second sphere is all about omniscience, wisdom, ability to solve problems, ability to see the you know, our higher self within, not to be to be would be in the first sphere, but to see the higher self within. And this is a 0 fractal within the second sphere. So we're almost getting to the first sphere, but we're just at the highest level of the second sphere, and we're in the mystery and the nothingness of within the second sphere. So that's what we're dealing with. And this one is called Breakthrough Appearances. Number 120, Breakthrough Appearances. Stage 120 is about recognizing our limits of perception and having the faith to keep going beyond those limits into that which cannot be directly perceived. Euclidean geometry is no longer in effect. Deeper and deeper into the center of the mind, we become aware that we are not seeing instantly. Experience introduces time. Experience is blinking on and off. But between experiences is the forever, eternal metaphysical. In the eternal, we penetrate beyond appearances so as to receive subtler truths, then ultimate truths, then finally insperience, the truth of freedom from suffering. Between the snapshots of experience, direct to the reality itself. Upon equilibrium or resonance, we can see through the surface of a completely calm lake, the subconscious. Through twice the speed of light to a second scalar dimension of motion, the light boom beyond Euclidean. With the time lag, we are not seeing what's really happening. Get over it. We are seeing what is just right for our level, for our species, for our wavelength. At this time, we see nothing we can't handle. Underlying everything in the world is nothing, equilibrium. The laws of the universe are modified at certain critical magnitudes or quantum units. There are too many scalar dimensions for us to compute, but maybe someday. The cosmic sector is made out of space in time, while the material sector is made out of time in space. We can only perceive the material, but since the cosmic is the exact reciprocal of the material, we know about it even without being able to directly perceive it. In the cosmic, time is being excavated by space. In the material, space is being filled by time or matter. Beyond the light boom, the world is instantaneous and the thought drift process comes to a halt. Okay, that is number 120, Breakthrough Appearances, the 0 fractal of the second sphere. And a lot of that is, coming from the universe of motion, Dewey Larson's reciprocal system of theory, and the update of it made by Dr. Bruce Perret. Both of those people are deceased. And again, those are things that are very valuable to me, that I have, dedicated myself to attempting to make them known to other people, because I think they could confer great benefit on other people as well as myself if we knew about them. So we will be studying a lot of the reciprocal system coming up in future units on this channel. But for right now, we're doing Tree of Life, because Tree of Life is a foundational subject. It's a subject that if we can get the Tree of Life, then it makes all the other subjects easier. Same thing with the reciprocal system. If Dewey Larson came up with, he had books on physics and metaphysics and chemistry and astronomy and economics and he had chapters on a lot of philosophy, free will, and he extended his subject, mathematics and geometry. He extended his that's why he called it the reciprocal system. It was a system of theory. It fit into every subject, and so it's foundational. Like, so if you can get the reciprocal system, it makes everything else so much easier. I mean, when I was in high school, I took all those subjects, physics and chemistry and geometry and math and calculus and all these other things. I didn't think I learned any of it, just kind of memorized it for the test or whatever. But then when I actually buckled down and really studied the reciprocal system and tried to get it, I went back and I revisited kind of my high school. I think I got a college astronomy textbook and a high school chemistry and a high school physics textbook. And I started reading through them, and it was like I understood all of it, because I had the reciprocal system underlying my understanding. Because I understood the reciprocal system, it made it so much easier for me to understand, the textbook version, and also to tear it apart, to recognize where the textbook version was just kind of like pretending that they knew this even though they didn't, or pretending that this was a solid piece of knowledge when it was actually just the best theory that they had at the time. So the Tree of Life does that too. If you can learn the Tree of Life, it makes learning the other subjects that much easier. So that's why I focus on it. And sorry for going so long today, but thank you for sticking around to the end. And please click the link in the description if you'd like me to send you those 144 fractal faculties, the list of the guide to the 144 fractal faculties. You can also click the like button. You can share the video with others, subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like to donate, my Cash App and my Venmo are listed in the description. And I do these videos every day. For the next month and a half or so, we're going to be focused on the Tree of Life, and then we're going to branch into other subjects. So stay tuned tomorrow for tomorrow's version of the featured fractal. What number is it going to be? Today it was 120. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow? But find out by staying tuned or tuning in tomorrow. Thanks.